without a fundamental change in the EU's building stock, we will not be able to achieve our climate and energy objectives. Another element that I think is quite important to mention in the current context is that buildings are also central for recovery and for job creation, and this necessity is only reinforced in the current geopolitical context. So I think what we have also seen over the recent months is that we really need to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels, and buildings and their heating and cooling are one of the key really priority areas to tackle. So it's from this perspective that we are revising the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, and it's important to recall as well that buildings represent really a very big part of our energy use, 40%. And also a figure that I find is quite striking is that 55% of our natural gas consumption and a third of our greenhouse gas emissions in the EU come from buildings. So this is really a strategic area that we need to tackle. And it's also for this reason not only a central part of the Fit for 55 package, but also of REPowerEU. So despite our efforts collectively in the EU, there is still a significant untapped potential for energy savings. And in the revision of the Fit for 55 package, we are looking at it from different angles. On the one hand, energy efficiency through the Energy Efficiency Directive and the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, and on the other hand, renewables in buildings through, again, the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, but also the Renewables Directive. All these provisions are really closely connected, they are complementary and mutually supportive, and they are really strongly interrelated. What we see from the EPBD perspective is that we really need to transform the sector quite fundamentally. So we need to, on the one hand, improve their energy efficiency. We also need to make them participants into the grid much more actively. We need to roll out renewables, and we need to really get a step change in renovation. So the renovation of buildings is really at the center of the revision. So for this reason, in the framework of REPower Plan and the EU Safe Energy Communication, we have underlined the role of heat pumps, but we have also coupled them with a strong push for building renovations. So substituting fossil fuel-fired heating systems at home, in public buildings, in schools, in tertiary buildings, but also ensuring that buildings are well insulated, because this is really a precondition to make sure that the old heating systems are well replaced, and also the new efficient and renewable-based systems deliver as much as possible and make them buildings contributors to the electricity system. The Buildings Directive also has provisions on charging for electric vehicles and smart charging. It also benefits from the Solar Rooftop Initiative to deliver PV panels on buildings. And then, as regards building renovation, the key provision is the introduction of minimum energy performance standards, which is quite fundamental, really, to have clear obligations that result in a step change in the renovation rate. We are also, in parallel, giving a push to everything that has to do with planning of building renovation, with beefed up national building renovation plans, and also working on the skills dimension, because this is really very important to make sure that on the ground we move from the current building stock, which is very inefficient, to a zero-emission building stock, and that we also move away from fossil fuels and foster renewable energy in buildings as much as possible. A really priority of the revision is energy poverty and worst performing buildings. It also looks into healthy indoor climate conditions and adaptation to climate change, And many of these elements have been further reinforced by the REPowerEU communication. So we have, in addition, a targeted reinforcement of the EPBD proposal to deploy as well solar technologies in buildings. So at this stage of the legislative process, what is really important for all the ongoing revisions, and in particular for those on the Energy Efficiency Directive, the Renewables Directive, and the one that is to come in particular to final decision making beginning of next year, the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, that we come to really ambitious targets, ambitious obligations on public buildings, that we have clear and strong provisions on heating and cooling in buildings, and that the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, as the main tool to transform the building sector, delivers also ambitious legislation through the ongoing legislative process.